Do you ever wonder what might be lurking just beyond the edge of the campfire light? Is survival just a matter of instincts, or does the darkness reveal something deeper about human nature? Today's guest is Danny Stygion, an independent filmmaker, photographer, and publisher. He brings us his brutal new thriller, One Last Trip, and his captivating documentary, Dominatrices. Whether he's crafting psychological survival in the wilderness or exploring the subcultures beneath the surface, Danny's work pulls you into worlds unknown. This is the Dark Mind Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider supporting it by subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive daily blog posts and weekly book and film reviews. Head over to patreon.com/The Dark Mind Podcast and become a citizen of the darkness. You can also support the show for free by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Your support helps keep the dark conversation alive. So without further ado, I give you Danny Stygion. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me on this 5th day of October 2025. I had been eagerly awaiting your upcoming releases, knowing they'd been in the works for a little while. So I was thrilled when you sent me the links to check out your new horror thriller, One Last Trip, as well as your documentary, Dominatrices. One Last Trip is brutal, yet infused with a dash of dark humor, while Dominatrices is both fascinating and educational, not just for lay people, but also, I would imagine, for those experienced in BDSM. So thank you for sharing your art with me and for joining me on the show to discuss it.
Thank you for watching.
So, kind of a brief synopsis beginning with One Last Trip. It's about 4 longtime friends who set out to the wilds of a national forest for one final getaway, hoping to make memories before one of them leaves town for good. But what should have been a sentimental farewell plunges into chaos when a horrifying act of violence unfolds before their eyes, shattering their plans and forcing them into a desperate fight for survival as darkness closes in, and that is where the story really takes off. So, One Last Trip pays homage to, I would say, classic survival thrillers. Can you share what drew you to this genre and what personal meaning the wilderness holds for you?
Well, I guess one of my objectives for One Last Trip was my first film was The Goetia Diaries, which is a found footage horror. And I definitely wanted to make something that's a little bit more cinematic and actually work with a cinematographer. The films that inspired it would definitely be Deliverance and Judgment Night, which came out in the 90s. I always remember that movie from when I was a kid. And also, I had gone on a camping trip with some of the people that are in the film about a year prior. A lot of what we did on the trip is in the movie, except for the violence. And
at least that's what we're not going to say anything about that.
But when I was researching, because I don't really go camping or, leave the house too much, but I kind of just got this urge to go outdoors, and I convinced some of my friends to do it. And I didn't want it to be like we pulled up in a truck and, we walked 10 feet and we set up our tent. I wanted us to actually go hiking and just whatever we had on our backs would be what we had. And I got really interested in bushcraft and like things like that. Every now and then I just get these obsessions and like really dig into something for a while. And so I was reading up on all that. So also in my research, I had realized that Sam Houston National Forest has a lot of stories of missing people, missing campers, hikers, hunters, and some cryptid type stories. So it kind of like worked on my imagination as far as like what could happen on a trip when four friends go out there. What type of scenario could happen, and then how can I turn that into a script?
Interesting. So, sounds like a confluence of different things created like a slow inspiration for the film, or was there something that kind of just sparked it?
A little bit of everything. It all kind of came together, and I knew I had to get another movie going. And I have a good group of friends, supportive friends that want to help me with my projects, and they were interested in acting in it. So I wrote a lot of the parts for the people that are in the film. But yeah, I mean, no like spark. I also knew that we had to work with limited resources, and what are some things that we could pull off in the woods without a big budget.
Yeah. That's always my favorite thing about indie films is seeing how they circumvent the lack of like funding or resources to do really big things. I was let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, I'd never heard about the forest. There's resolved cases where they found the bodies, few unresolved cases. Journalist? Or okay, unresolved cases. So they may have found the remains. They just don't know what happened. And then recent reported cases. Last seen in Cleveland on the east side of the forest. Reported missing May of 25, then July of
Yeah.
25, then September. Good God. People need to stop going into this damn forest.
So
I'm
yeah, I mean,
surprised you
there's a
guys
lot of
made it
stories
out.
you could tell, right?
uh,
Oh, and to answer your other question, I guess one of the polls for a lot of people, I think, as far as going out into the woods, is kind of to have a technology detox, which is something that's mentioned in the film, just to kind of break away from like the city life or suburban life and get away from phones for a bit.
What is that like? Because I feel like if I was without my phone for like 10 minutes, I would probably crawl the walls like a heroin addict.
Right. I think it's hard to disengage, but after a while, I mean, it's kind of nice to just have that quiet and, I guess enjoy nature for a little bit. But it's definitely hard because I think I always catch myself just doom scrolling sometimes out of habit. It's like, what am I doing?
Mhm. Yeah, I watched a interview with Lionel Richie recently, and he was talking about how he doesn't read music, like he just that shit comes from deep down inside, and he was talking about it comes from the silence, like him sitting in his living room
Yeah,
in total silence in the dark, just waiting for it to come.
it's
So.
interesting.
Well, circling back to the film features four friends thrust into a harrowing scenario. How did you develop the dynamics between these characters, and what psychological elements were most important to you?
I feel like objectively, I think it does come through that these guys are friends as far as the acting and some of the parts. Like I knew Tom, he plays Lee DePortis in the film. I knew he has like a really dry, smart ass sense of humor, which I
He
thought,
was the guy that wouldn't stop complaining.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had written a base screenplay, but I let a lot of the actors improvise a lot of their lines and come up with their own ideas. Like he has a whole monologue rant during the drive that he had came up with. So I gave the actors a chance to kind of flesh out their characters, and I think that helped a lot with the dynamic. And in the film, I think it's kind of obvious that two of the characters are closer than the other two, and the other two are more friendly.
Gotcha. Well, many survival films examine human nature under stress, but when it comes to deeper truths or contradictions about friendship and loyalty, was there anything in particular that you wanted the audience to wrestle with?
Uh, Not so much. I guess the basic story is that one of them, as you mentioned, is about to move away, and his friends, they're not too happy about that. But once they're suddenly thrown into a situation of like abrupt violence, how would they react? And I had read some stories about just people do get killed in the woods or executed in the woods. Sometimes it's like cartel, sometimes it's drug dealers, sometimes it's just deranged men. So I wanted to put these characters in that type of situation. I was inspired by like, the comedy film Wild Hogs about the bikers. Like it's a silly like comedy with like John Travolta, but it takes its time to establish the characters before they go on their road trip. So I wanted to kind of do that with the beginning of the movie.
Okay. And I apologize. I'm still stuck on Sam Houston National Forest because it mentioned Cleveland. So is it north?
Oh, yeah. Sam Houston's north.
Where is Houston? So it's north of Cleveland and Conroe. Okay. Gotcha.
We technically shot it in Sam Houston National Forest, but we shot it on my uncle's property, most of the scenes, which is in the forest.
Gotcha. Well, how did, you were talking about some of the people you knew, your cast, Stephen Rogers, and is it Shafe Shockley?
Yes.
How did that kind of inform the dynamic of the emotional fabric of the story?
Well, can I briefly mention kind of how I met some of them?
Sure.
Shafe Shockley has helped me on multiple projects at this point, but he had reached out to me because he had seen the Goetia Diaries and he enjoyed it. He had some interest in the occult and esotericism. And he's also like a drone pilot who's really interested in filmmaking. So he's helped out in short films, multiple short films, and he's interested in horror and acting. So he was obviously someone I wanted to put in the film. Stephen Rogers is a photographer, a pinup photographer, which I relate to with my own photography that I had met at Warehouse Live. We were filming the documentary Bayou City Burlesque, which is about burlesque performers. And my wife had noticed that he was taking pictures and she said, "You should go meet this guy." So she pushed me to introduce myself and talk to him. And we've since become good friends. And same thing, he's been super supportive. And I always felt that Steven would be a good leader for a group. That's kind of why I wrote him as the main character, Sean. And Shafe has just always been a super supportive friend. So it was easy to write his part as the Sean's best friend. And that's kind of how I went with that.
Were there any interactions with them that kind of altered your original vision for the film?
I don't think so. We kept to the main script and direction of the script. I don't think too much changed. Just more lines were added.
Well, let's see. Were there any moments during filming where art imitated life, like some experiences where you guys experienced real fear or at least tension in the woods?
I had written a scene.
Did you see Bigfoot? No.
I wish. I'm totally open to seeing things like that. But I had written a scene where one of the campers or Sean, the main character, is kind of awakened because he hears like wolves or coyotes or just something in the background kind of howling. And that happened multiple times throughout the shoot, that we would hear things in the distance. And we would also hear like gunshots too. It's like, oh, that kind of made things a little bit tense while we were filming.
Yeah. Just people hunting? Or I guess, when did you shoot it?
I know we shot it before it was too hot. So we shot it like kind of.
It wasn't like
spring area. No, it wasn't hunting season.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah. No, we made sure not to film during hunting season.
But can't you shoot? Well, maybe there's not a hog problem in the forest, but some places you can shoot hogs like all year round.
Yeah, that is true. They might have been doing that. Yeah, but yeah, we're like, hopefully no stray bullets like come our way.
Yeah, that would be funny if some actual hunters came across the guy in the skull mask and shot
Yeah.
him. Like, oh my God.
Luckily, we were pretty hidden when we shot those scenes, but we did let like some neighbors know we were going to be filming
Uh-huh.
some screaming and things like that, and not to call the police.
That's exactly what they would say. So, as both director and editor, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. As both director and editor, you had ultimate control over pacing and tone. How do you decide when to linger in moments of suspense versus moving the story forward?
It's like a delicate line that you need to work with, because one thing I'm still trying to work on is, I guess, time frame. When I had made this film, or when I had written the script, I kind of envisioned it as being, anywhere from 70 to 90 minutes. And the finished film came out a little bit shorter than I wanted, but still long enough to be considered feature length. And there's things you always got to watch for, like in 3-act structure, they tell you you need to have an inciting incident pretty early, like the 15, 20-minute mark. But in some films, like I think even Deliverance, like they take a while to set up their characters before anything happens. And I felt we needed to do something similar, where we establish the four guys before anything happens. And so we took our time with that. But you're always worried the audience isn't gonna stay hooked long enough. So that's something I'm still learning and trying to get better at. But I try to stick with Sid Field's 3-act structure. For me personally, I need to flesh out, I think, more scenes for the next film to make sure that I hit that target running time that I wanted originally.
And don't get me wrong, I totally understand the effectiveness and rationale behind a director that directs and an editor that edits and all these separate little specialties by people that are just amazing at it. But god damn it if I don't love auteurs. Do you like being the maestro?
Yes, I definitely believe in auteur theory. Some of my favorite directors, like Stanley Kubrick, John Carpenter, David Fincher, they definitely have a strong vision for their films. But it's working on a film is definitely a collaboration. I've realized, and I also worked with co-editors on One Last Trip, Derek Salyer and Lauren Salyer, who did a lot of the color grading and tightening up of scenes and audio cleanup. Audio cleanup is something that I hate dealing with, so I appreciate that they worked on it. But yeah, I definitely, it's hard to try and develop a vision. I think you need to make like a body of work to where people could say, all right, that's definitely a Danny Stygion film or something. And I don't know if I'm there yet, like maybe a few more films.
Yeah, let's actually bring up the credits here. Yeah, so tell me about the concept for the poster. And
So we shot that at my uncle's property, because he has like a wooded area behind his house and all around him. And then the person in the poster is Shape Shockley.
okay.
I had used AI to generate when I was inputting the concept for the film. And I also want to mention, I'm definitely not anti-AI. I think it's a useful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going away anytime soon. So I would input my script ideas and some inspirations I had for the visual. And then one of the images that like stood out to me was this silhouette kind of someone's back,
Mm-hmm.
which, is not an original image. Like we see it a lot in different, I think even the Friday the 13th poster, if you look, I didn't realize till afterwards, it's like an outline of someone's back. But I think it's a powerful image because that person could be anyone technically. In the distance, we see 3 kind of shadow shapes, which represent the 3 killers that are in the film. This poster was designed by Brandon Nash, who's also one of the actors in the film. He has like a small cameo.
And so, like this scene right here, this is on who was it? Your uncle's property, you said?
Yes, this is on my uncle. His name is Tim McGovern. He's also in the film. He has a cameo. He's a forest ranger in the film.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
The person on the left, that's Derek Sawyer, the cinematographer. This is actually a still of the Indiegogo trailer or promo that we used for the Indiegogo campaign. Okay. So this is not in the film, but we used it to help launch that campaign.
Oh, this the mechanic.
Yeah. Good old Tom.
Now I'm advertising.
That's
bras.
Not in the movie.
Yeah. I deserve money for advertising whatever that was.
That's my father-in-law, and he has this great Corvette old vehicle, and we wanted to kind of work it into the film.
Nice.
Again, you try to work with the resources that you have when you.
Oh yeah.
You have like a
yeah. I mean, that's a solid vehicle right there. So, tell me a little bit about your concept for the antagonist. Is it purely just something scary, or was it metaphorical?
I like the idea of we don't really explain who they are too much. I wanted to be kind of open-ended, as far as you don't know if they're drug dealers or cartel or hunters. I think towards the end you might realize where they're coming from, especially the main character. I like the idea of not showing faces, but eventually we have to show the people that are in the film because they agreed to be in the film. Yeah. They want to be like, you could get anyone to just wear like a mask the whole film. Uh-huh. I did give, I guess I could talk. Do you want me to talk a little bit about the backstory of the main character or what inspires the main antagonist?
Sure.
He is played by, we call him the man in the skull mask, and he's played by Skip Shelton, who is my brother-in-law. And Skip just has a really great outgoing personality and like a really deep voice. And I told him his character is really obsessed or interested in The Most Dangerous Game, which is a book that the Zodiac Killer was obsessed with. And kind of his followers are followers of him, like kind of how Charles Manson had followers. But their main thing is hunting people. I would have been okay not showing their faces at all, I think, because then, you could, I think, leaving that to the imagination of the viewer is like more scary than actually showing someone's face. But, we had to show their faces.
Well, when it came to, tell me the character's name one more time that was always complaining.
Oh, Lee Deportes.
Yeah, Lee. So why was it important for you to kind of interject some dark comedy into it?
I think dark comedy or comedy and horror kind of go together. It helps a little bit with the tension. And I just kind of enjoy horror films that are like that anymore. Like I have a kind of dry, sarcastic sense of humor. So his character like fit the movie perfectly. And it was not our intention or his intention, I think, but just throughout the natural development of the film, like I think Tom's character stole a lot of scenes. But I don't think he was trying to deliberately.
Uh-huh. Well, when it comes to, you've mentioned Derek Sawyer a couple of times. When it came to partnering up with him for the cinematography, how did his hand in the cinematography influence the visual language of fear and isolation?
I had given him some influences, and he's really into color grading. And I had mentioned films like.
Does he give lessons?
He might. Derek has a pretty good eye for composition, and but again, yeah, color grading is a big thing with him. And I had sent him The Grain Room, which kind of has like a really cold blue green tint to the film, and so we're trying to mimic that a little bit with the color grade. And I think certain colors will give the viewer, certain feelings, obviously. So that might, I think, help.
Gotcha. Well, the film's music plays a subtle yet powerful role. So what emotions did you hope to evoke with the score? I mean, obviously fear, tension, and all that, but did any of the tracks change how you experienced your own footage?
A little bit. The person who scored the film is Doug, who has worked with me on several films, The Goetia Diaries, Bayou City Burlesque, and Dominatrices. And he was chomping at the bit to actually do like a full score for a horror film or a thriller, because the Goetia Diaries is found footage and we could only put a little bit of music in there because it kind of breaks the rules to have music in a found footage film.
Yeah.
So we really had to try to work around that. I kind of just gave him free reign. I gave him some direction a little bit on what type of score I think would fit. And then he just kind of went off on his own. After watching it a few times now, like, maybe like we could have been a little bit more subtle, or turned down the music a little bit, because it kind of gives a certain mood right away, which I don't know is something we needed for a particular scene. And I don't want to like call out the scene, but yeah, music's very important. A friend of mine had told me he had watched the Goetia Diaries, and he said that he never realized how important music was to horror films until he realized there was like no music. It's like, well, there's a reason why there's no music, but like, I get what he's saying. Like, music definitely adds a lot to a film as far as evoking the mood.
Well, it was a great film. And so we go now from fictional film to documentary. In your film Dominatrices, I was trying to find a decent picture I could display here. Maybe this is the one. Yeah. So your film Dominatrices spotlights 5 professionals in an often misunderstood world. What responsibility did you feel in representing their stories respectfully and accurately?
I think it's really important to let them, professional dominatrices, tell their story, and like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, less glamorous stuff that people don't get to hear a lot. I've seen a few documentaries. One of them inspired me to be a fetish photographer when I was a teenager, called Fetishes by Nick Broomfield.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe he didn't give the professional dominants like enough of an opportunity to explain themselves a little bit. And there's a few other ones, but I wanted to definitely showcase, and a lot of these dominatrices have been in my magazine, Cynical and Subspace. And I kind of already knew what I wanted to ask them just through interviewing them for the magazines. Maybe down the line, on a side note, I think it'd be interesting to explore the other side of the perspective too, like the submissive side, and interview some submissives. We had thought about maybe trying to incorporate that into this film, but we decided to just focus on the professional dominance.
Yeah, and I mean, it's actually earned quite a bit of praise for the nuanced approach you took. How did you kind of balance the tension between voyeurism and education? Was there a particular line that you tried not to cross, or was it just a fluid, play by ear thing?
So we're still dealing with that. I intentionally made sure there's certain things we didn't film, like full frontal nudity or genitalia, or, just certain things that would be hard to get us on the platforms. Like, we wanted to show, stuff that's truthful, but we also know, like, if we film certain things, no one's going to see it. And we're still kind of dealing with that. The film's been licensed, and it should be on its first platform soon, but it's been a battle compared to some of my other films that have been picked up and released sooner. And it's because of the mature content. Some of the people have come back and said, like, this is too heavy for us to release. So we're still trying to, navigate that, because I don't think so. Like, I've seen some other documentaries that have shown more, and they're on multiple platforms. So I'm really pushing to get it out there, because I think it's fine as is. But yeah, we had to be careful with what we filmed, and not to go too far. I wanted to tease what sessions would be like with some of the people in the film, but not show too much. If they want to explore that further, they can, look into booking sessions themselves, or just trying to do more research.
Yeah. One of the scenes that really stood out to me was, I forget what her name was. I don't think she's based in Houston. She travels. I think she's based in Vegas, if I remember correctly.
Oh, a Vanity Sin?
Yeah, that sounds right. She did the scene where it's like she employed hypnosis
Yeah.
to bring the person into, I guess, what you would refer to as subspace. Is that common, or is that kind of like a specialty?
I think that's one of the best scenes in the film when we were filming it. I was like, wow, this is really powerful. She's really good at hypnotism. Subspace, I think, is something. Well, some of them mentioned that it could happen in the first session, but like you have to be in a certain mind space to hit that. I don't want to say that it's rare, but you really got to let down a lot of mental barriers to be in that place, which I think is a good goal for session because you kind of just like you let all the problems that you have just kind of melt away, and then you're like in a relaxed, like trance-like state. But I think it's different than a little bit different than what she was doing, which is this hypnotism. Subspace is more like all your endorphins or your relaxation, everything's just kind of kicking in, and you're out of your mental space for a little bit.
Like a out of body experience?
Kind of, yeah. Just like a lot of concerns that the world just kind of just goes away for a minute, and you're just in the moment, like dealing with the pain or pleasure you're receiving from the person you're having a session with.
What was the most unexpected lesson you learned from the women featured in Dominatrices, professionally or personally?
Unexpected lesson. Definitely that they need to be careful. They can't trust whoever's just coming in there. They got to make sure that they're real careful with who they're dealing with. They're on the same page because sometimes red flags will come up with the person that they're talking to as far as what that person wants out of the session. I think that's definitely something that came through. And a couple of them mentioned just, you have people that want to try and like top from the bottom, just take control even though they're trying to be submissive. Um, I think that's important for the scene just to understand that dynamic.
Did any of the women's stories that they told shift the trajectory of the documentary?
A little bit. We had a screening that went really well, and I didn't realize how funny it had seemed to the audience. Like some of the stories, like the egg enema story, like
Oh yeah,
yeah, that brought down the house. Like wow. So when I was listening, like oh, that's no big like normal because like I've kind of used to all these stories, but it's like wow, like not just that. There's a crucifixion story that's mentioned, and that I got a big reaction.
yeah.
And that's another thing. Like I guess maybe I'm just numb to certain things, but like to see an audience who's not used to hearing these type of stories hear them and then kind of react that way, like I was like, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that.
Maybe it I don't know how it works. Maybe it varies by state, or maybe it's just an implicit right that people have. Is there any law that says you can't do something consensually that extreme?
That I'm not sure. Man, I don't know. I gotta, because I know there's certain laws that there's certain things that you cannot do in sessions. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a law for that one. You're
I was
talking
just
about the
thinking,
crucifixion.
yeah, I was just thinking, like, how would you explain that at the hospital? I mean, imagine you
Yeah,
have to get that fixed,
yeah. I don't know. I'll have to ask the people.
you know, unless you can get them to believe it's the stigmata.
Yeah,
Well, as I said earlier, the film's reception has been overwhelmingly positive, and as you just now said, a lot of things that people responded to. You were kind of shocked at the what they responded to and how they responded to. Do you think society's growing interest in kink and BDSM kind of signals deeper social changes, or maybe a search for authenticity?
I know a lot of things have changed since I first saw like fetishes back in the '90s. Like I think it's become a little bit more mainstream. 50 Shades of Grey, movies like Secretary, things like that. But at the same side, a lot of professional dominatrices in the scene, or even my magazines, like we deal with a lot of censorship issues. And I know a lot of the dominatrices have lost platforms where they can advertise themselves. Like, so a lot of those sites are getting shut down, and different, laws have come into place to make it harder for them just to, because it is a profession. This is how they survive and make their living, and it's getting harder for them. So it's kind of like it's going in two different directions. I feel like BDSM or fetishism is becoming, not so behind the scenes. It's becoming more mainstream, but it's getting harder for the actual people who are doing it for a living.
Yeah. I've actually interviewed two people, Stephanie Parent and the other woman is escaping me. Stephanie Parent was a dominatrix. She was a switch. She did both. She told a story about a place in Los Angeles where she started out, and the story is basically the attic of this dungeon is haunted.
Oh, wow.
And that's when we started getting into total environments, like how in a bar there's no windows, everything's just dark and quiet, and it's like you're shut off from the world, forget about your troubles.
Yeah.
Kind of transcend reality on whatever low lying basis that is. Well, you add that to what I imagine is the really exotic trappings of the inside of a dungeon, as well as the the costumes, the clothing that the dominatrixes are wearing, and so on and so forth. Are there places like that in Houston?
Yeah. One thing I want to mention is, like, I feel like there is a correlation between, because, like, I've done a lot of research into the occult, and I feel like there's a strong ritual element to a session. Like the outfits, the setting, the mood, the music, the lighting, a lot of that stuff similar to, like, if you're doing a ritual, esoteric ritual. As far as places in Houston, definitely the Vault, which is where a lot of the documentary was filmed at, which is run by Domina Shannon, who's a good friend of mine. I've known her for probably 20 years. And I met her by photographing her. I think we shot in the Wortham tunnels underground, or in Houston, that are underground. And which she runs one of the main dungeons. And there's a few other pretty big dominatrices in Houston that have been around that run dungeons. Mistress Ella Strickland is another one that's pretty famous. Mistress Precious. I would say those three are probably the top three in Houston. If someone were to try and find a dominatrix in Houston, and some of these dungeons have multiple people that work out of them. If someone wants to try and find the right dom.
So, like, the lunch?
No, none of that.
This is like a club.
Maybe search the Vault Dungeon.
The Vault Dungeon. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Welcome to the Vault. I'm assuming they don't have a gallery.
They maybe under the dungeon or dominoes. Yeah.
About the Vault. Yeah.
I know a lot about this stuff because my wife is a former dominatrix, and that's kind of how we met.
Yeah. Yeah, I better, just like you were talking about platforms,
you got to be careful. Yeah. You don't pull up the wrong image.
Yeah, I'd like to put this up on YouTube. Anyway. Well, in filming dominatrices, were there moments where the camera became a confessional of sorts, where subjects spoke truths they hadn't spoken elsewhere, whether that be, you were calling them dominas?
Yeah.
I was calling them doms, but I don't know anything.
Yeah. I guess the terminology is different for certain. Some prefer to be called mistress or goddess or domina. You got to make sure if someone's mistress, whoever, you're not calling them goddess. But I think dominance is fine. And as far as the confession, I'm not sure if they were confessing this.
Nobody's like, you've gotten done shooting, you're like, wow, I don't know what came over me. I've never told that story before. Yeah.
A few of them just kind of like, they just let it all out. Genevieve for sure. She's like really talkative, and I don't think we included everything she said because I don't know if we could. Some of that stuff is like, I don't know if I could put that in a documentary and like not get in trouble.
Mhm. Well, one thing I've noticed about your projects is fear and the unknown seem to be recurring themes. What speaks to you personally about these subjects? Do they echo your own inner landscape in some way, or is it just kind of like about the thrill?
Uh, I'm definitely always on a journey trying to figure stuff out, figure out what the truth is. And I love horror films as far as the thrill element of films. I like working on documentaries because it gives me a chance to explore areas that interest me and, try to find out the truth. Like, I feel like Dominatrices gives a pretty truthful viewpoint of, their community. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep making horror films or thrill films, one after another. So I think we're going to go into a different direction for the next few projects.
Well, we've spoken about Cynical Magazine and Subspace Magazine. You evolved from alternative photography and magazine publishing to filmmaking. So, how does your past work seep into your approach to stories and visuals on screen?
Visually, because I started off as a photographer before the magazine, like I try to bring elements of my photography into films, maybe more in the Goetia Diaries.
Kind of like Kubrick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Kubrick, but it's really hard to like develop your own distinctive style, especially when you work with cinematographers. I mean, you could give direction on how you want things framed or lighting wise, but if you're working in different genres, it's really hard to maintain like a consistent style. So that's something I'm really trying to work on. And filmmaking was something that interested me when I was a teenager, but I kind of put it off to the side to explore other things. So it's definitely my main focus right now because I feel like I've done photography in the magazine long enough, and but not filmmaking as much.
So, this is kind of it's a serious question, but there's kind of a playful element to it as well. You moved from fiction to documentary. Is the truth stranger than fiction?
Sometimes it can be for sure. There's subjects I want to explore that I think are probably more interesting than some of these horror films and movies that are coming out.
Well, as an artist working with limited resources, what sustains you during setbacks and helps you persevere in the indie film world?
Um, right now, I'm definitely in the like micro budget or no budget almost level, which I think is a good place to be when you're starting out because you don't, I mean, you're obviously not going to get a bunch of financial backing from someone if you haven't made anything. But when you're at like a micro budget level, you could take more chances and you could just go make your film. You really don't have to wait on anyone to give you permission to make it. So when I have an idea that's fully fleshed out, I just go make the film. I have a pretty good support network of friends and other filmmakers that are interested in helping me. So I kind of know one of the directors I look up to is Edward Burns, who made The Brothers McMullen, and then he made a bunch of he made a few Hollywood movies like She's All That. But one thing he said when he ran into trouble with Hollywood, when he got noticed and started making bigger films, is like, I just love filmmaking. Like, yeah, I kind of want to go back to where I started, or that's what he said, and go back and make like the movie that can be made in 12 days for like $10,000. So he's gone back to that, even though he's been at the top of the game, before. But yeah, I think it's important to work with the resources that you have and to make films that interest you. And we've had 2 successful crowdfunding campaigns. They weren't big campaigns, but enough to make the films. So crowdfunding is a good source to come up with the funds that you need, I think, for smaller projects.
Well, this since we last spoke, I keep up with what you post on social media and stuff like that. And one thing I remember specifically seeing that I was so jealous of is that you quit your day job and your day job is now video production. Is that correct?
It's make sure like photography. Like I quit, so I had a pretty high stressful corporate job
Mm-hmm.
where like I was managing like 200 people.
Jesus.
I thought I was going to have a stroke one day. And I was getting gray hairs, and I was just always angry and stressed out. And I realized a lot of my friends, kind of not a lot, but like some friends my age were like dying for various reasons, and it just kind of like gave me motivation. Like I needed to like get moving with my goals. I could fail at doing the job that I hate, or I could fail at doing stuff that I love. So like I took a chance. Things kind of lined up where I could take a chance to do photography full time, which is what I'm doing now, and then concentrate on making films. And one of my goals is just to build a big enough library of documentaries and narrative films, enough to just that'll cover my expenses, and I could just continue to make films. But doing photography is definitely less stressful than what I was doing.
Yeah, didn't I see though? Didn't you post something about doing some sort of a college informational video or something like that?
Oh yeah, we were contracted to do a series of mental health videos for the University of Clear Lake, Houston. And that was a big deal. That was part of the motivation for me to go ahead and leave my corporate 9 to 5 to focus.
Oh, that was before. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, they gave us a big budget. And that was like, I guess the first time I've actually been paid to direct. And I'm really proud of the series of short films. I think they're important and useful, and it helps the actual university's program. And we've gone on to work with some of those actors in those short films, and they're still appearing in my projects.
Nice. Yeah. So does that help you at all as far as, since your business technically involves video production, does that make it easier to get a hold of equipment to use on your personal projects, tax deductions and the like?
Yeah, I think with that program, or the funding we had, like we were able to get some items that we need, but like for the most part, we have like most of the equipment that we need, or I know cinematographers that have equipment that we could use for projects. And I'm just continuing trying to build up my network. There's a lot of composers that are my friends that are interested in scoring films. So I'm very grateful. There's like a line of people that want to make music for my projects, and actors too. So I think that's really important, when you're like an indie filmmaker, is to keep building up your circle and your network. So it's not as hard to make projects because you have those resources available, as long as you remember to help them when their time comes, when they want to make something, which is something I'm trying to do right now with a few people. I'm producing a couple short films for people who've helped me make my films, and it'll be their first time. So.
Yeah, like before this, the only thing that I was familiar with was the Goetia Diaries, but I mean, I just happened to be going through your filmography here. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I'm trying to make up for lost time because I'm 45 now. I didn't really get going. I think my first legit short film was when I was 37.
In 2017?
Yeah.
Solitaire.
But there's some film directors that didn't get started late too. That gives me hope. I think, I'm not comparing myself to Ridley Scott, but he didn't direct, I think, until he was 40, his first film. So it's like, okay, it's not too late. And I think he's made like 30 movies. And he's still making films. So it's like, okay, like it's not over. I could, as long as I keep making them as fast as I can.
Yeah.
At a decent quality too.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling. You get to a certain age and it's like the timer goes from hours to minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, what happened to the hours? Now it's just minutes ticking down.
Definitely. I definitely feel the I guess I'm more aware of mortality and like time's like running out.
Yeah. Well, I'm 45. I'm right there with you.
Oh, okay. So, do you wake up like I'll wake up and I'm already hurting. I'm like, I just slept for 8 hours. I'm like, why does my neck and back hurt already? It's like,
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful stretching in the morning. You might pull something.
Yeah, it's like, that part sucks. Like, I wish I was like 35 right now.
But you know, the drive you get from it, like, I mean, there's nights where if I have some creative thing that I'm working on, I can't sleep. I'll like wake up
Yeah.
at 2 a.m. and work until 5 and then sleep for 2 hours and then get up and rinse and repeat, you know? So
I think maybe one of the reasons why I didn't start sooner is just I didn't have enough life experience yet, you know, like,
yeah.
so the timing's right.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, Danny, as always, I was going to say it has been, but as always, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
I appreciate you, Vincent, for having me on again.
So as we bring the show to a close, is there anything you'd like to plug or let your viewers know about?
Yes. We have a couple films in post-production and production. We're finishing up Ghosts of Texas Galveston, which is a documentary about haunted places in Galveston. We've been working on it for about a year. That should be coming out hopefully at the end of this year. And I'm working on a documentary called Synth Heads, which is about people who are passionate and obsessed with synthesizers, like analog and modular synthesizers. I don't think there's enough documentaries on synthesizers.
Hell yeah.
I'm working on a documentary about snub-nosed revolvers, because that's like a passion of mine. And there's like no real documentary on that subject.
Interesting.
And then lastly, for the third or fourth narrative film, we're trying to do a modern version of the Faust legend, which I think is really an important and timeless tale, making a pact with the devil and how that affects your life. I think it'd be good to make a modern version of that. So we're in the script writing stage of that, but I'm working with the writer on that project.
The documentary on Galveston, does that include, like, I don't know if there's a legend that involves the ghost of, what was the pirate's name? Jean Lafitte or something?
We didn't cover that.
Okay.
We covered the Grand Galvez, the Lee Kempner Mansion, the Galveston Naval Museum, and the Hutchins and Sealy building. So those are the four main locations.
Nice.
And if it does well or takes off, or there's interest, or we plan on continuing the series and doing one like Houston or downtown or different parts of Texas. So Ghosts of Texas is hopefully going to be a series, but it just depends. But I think paranormal documentaries have a pretty good audience. So.
Oh, yeah. Right. Sounds good. Well, listeners at home, all links are in the description. And Danny, thank you again for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for a new episode featuring the best and brightest authors and filmmakers of dark literature and film. So until then, stay healthy, stay sane, and as always, thank you for listening. See you next time.